Well, today on Sales Confessions, we've got someone who didn't stumble into sales enablement. He made it his mission. Titles don't really capture what Charles really does. He's the kind of person who sees a broken onboarding flow, a messy sales pitch, and cannot not fix it. He treats enablement like a craft and a competitive advantage. I was fortunate enough to witness firsthand how quickly he can turn around a sales org, and I won't mention his karaoke skills, but they're up there. When he plugs into a team, performance start to shift really fast. So Charles, thanks a ton for joining us today, and welcome to Sales Confessions.
Dude, I'm so happy to be here, Francis. You're right, karaoke, that was I still want to see the video. I think Sam has it. He's been holding a hostage for me for like 5 years, but happy to be here. Great to be here with you, bud.
Love it. Well, as always, we like to start with the confession segment where we talk about something that you've seen not work, either something that you've implemented or you've seen others implement that we can all collectively learn from. So I'm a firm believer that we learn more from our mistakes than our successes. So Charles, if you're ready to confess, like what is your confession?
These are my confessions. I feel like, what's that R. Kelly song, whatever it is. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, we've all had some great successes in our career. We've all stepped on our toes. I think today, I may actually switch. The thing that's really been irking me, or the failure that I've had, is when I run organizations of not having the right technology in place. We've talked about the gongs, the choruses, and all that stuff, and I've seen so many companies spend billions of dollars on this stuff, and my confession is they don't give you anything. And I've fallen for these traps too, and the metrics just being not enough for a seller to actually get better, being too light, and not really showing the intentionality of what we're trying to do with our sales process. And it's one of those things where, like I said, I've made the mistake on my teams of investing in solutions that didn't give me the return. And I think that's a big mistake that people are making today, is buying technology, setting it up for them, and not understanding the outputs that it gives you and if it actually matters to the seller to make them better or not. And I think companies are really struggling with taking the metrics that these things give and treating them as gospel, when ultimately they're not, because we're all individual humans that do things a different way, all trying to get to the same destination in our individual styles. So this is my confession of having invested in tools that didn't get me where I wanted to go, but all their marketing and websites did all the job to help me, to convince me that they would.
Yeah, and it's super interesting because I think it was yesterday that their CEO was posting on LinkedIn how he's seeing like there's a risk of a regression to the mean with all of the AI chatbots out there, where like strategy documents are now being spat out of ChatGPT, and we're kind of losing the edge. And it's like he was saying, like, this crisis is not going to be something that we're going to fall off a cliff. It's like a slow decline of like we're losing our edge because we're not thinking about like what we really want to do, and we're kind of giving a lot of that decision making to ChatGPT. And I think there's something similar with tools like Gong and Chorus, where like it gives you the metrics, but if you don't set them up with intentionality, and if you don't really think about how it aligns with your strategy, then it just like spits out like the most average kind of sales rep ever.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not that they're bad products. Like, they do great things, and to your point, when you set them up the right way, they're incredible. But the downside is most people don't have someone in an organization that understands what that looks like, right? We're all looking for the answer to why. Why did that email get a response? Why did that discovery convert into a demo? Why did that price hold when it's 3 times higher than we normally sell it for? And these tools will give you back, well, you're talking too much, or hey, you're asking not enough questions, or how do you know, right? And we all have these individual styles, and I think if you manage through metrics that don't speak directly to an individual and don't tie that to their individual abilities and skill sets and assessments and all the things we should be doing in orgs to understand how good our people are and where they need help, then garbage in, garbage out. And so when I have customers come to me, or potential clients come to me, and they say, hey, we've got a really hard time of trying to convert, our emails are the ones that are getting replied to, all the signals are telling us these are amazing, but they're not being rated high. In fact, I think you see some of these things where emails are written by AI and says you get an A and you send it and you never hear from anything. But the email that gets the C, I think I saw this on one of the Confessions episode, now is getting responses. And if my Gong or Chorus, and take the company name out of it, if my tool to do this and to measure how well I'm doing something is giving me something like, you need to ask more questions, or hey, this competitor came up here, it doesn't tell me anything because I'm missing the context. And that's where great companies are using these tools paired with assets and individuals and whatever other things that they need to make sense of the why. And if I'm buying a tool to tell me the why and I need something else to do that for me, then why am I buying this thing in the first place, as opposed to just listening to a call and saying, you know what, I really didn't introduce myself with that much credibility today. That's why that call went off the rails. But if we're looking at tools to tell us that feed the metrics that they're built to provide, what are we really hearing about?
That makes a ton of sense. And actually, if we flip that one on its head, like today, like there's a lot of people looking to add AI in their sales process. Like, where have you seen success either in your process, or are you seeing success in with your customers where they're implementing AI successfully in the sales process?
Yeah, I'll give you two. So we'll start with the sellers and leaders that I work with. ChatGPT is huge, right? Pay the $20 or $50 or whatever it's up to now. But I think what people don't understand is the doors and projects that it gives you access to, right? So we teach, it's like, look, if you have 200 accounts, you're not going to go after them all at the same time. And you know why you're going after them, right? And so how do we build account plans? So when you set up projects for each account or each opportunity you're working, with the instructions in that project as to the exact intentions and outcomes you're looking for, and you put it in with the frameworks that you use to do these calls. So for example, I teach discovery framework. So if I'm getting ready for a discovery call, that framework's already in the instructions of GPT, and I'll ask you, hey, how do I get to my outcomes that I'm trying to drive here if I'm really struggling to get there? And what it starts spitting you out is these additions to your framework that allows you to say, you know what, this is how my company taught me to do. This is what my individual style looks like. Here's how I'm going to approach this call. And what allows people is relax when they get onto that call because it's a purpose and a framework built for them. And that's where GPT has become so invaluable to my teams, is because now I can look at my entire pipeline, every opportunity we're working, and I know exactly where it stands. I know exactly the process you've taken. And now the fields in your CRM that the MedPicks and the Bants are all excited about, they become irrelevant. What becomes relevant is, what is the customer trying to achieve, and how can I, in my individual style, get them there the right way? And that's where, you bridge that kind of AI and enablement space. That's where it really hits, is how do I prepare myself for the next interactions and conversations I'm about to have to execute them as properly as possible? Not how do I write this LinkedIn post a little bit better? Those I think are a little bit wasted, but the opportunity value and the account value is where it really shines. The 10Ks, what am I supposed to read about that? GPT gives me a really nice way to put it into a 7-year-old's language that I can now use with my customers to bring us a common understanding. A place that, prior most reps wouldn't be able to get to unless they've been incredibly well trained.
So are you saying that, so the recommendation is reps would create one folder per account they're going after, and then do they load some kind, like, you can customize in there, so they load a document that explains something, or what's the initial setup if someone wanted to replicate this?
Yeah, so it's super simple. You open up a project and you name it whatever, Mad Kudu, right? And if I'm going after Francis and Sam and Hayden, right, then I'm going to go and say, okay, well, here's Mad Kudu, here's where I'm trying to go. So in those project briefs and that introduction and that kind of setup of that project, I'm saying, here's the framework I use, and I'll load that framework, right? So it's current situation, what are they going through, how do they plan to solve, what's my open, what's my high note, what's my close, like, all of that status that I know needs to be in a really, really good discovery experience for the customer. And I say, well, hold on now. Well, they're in pharma, right? Well, now I want to go and say, now edit this for a pharma type customer. What's that intake look like? Well, how does that change the questions I need to ask? What am I not thinking about that I should be? Oh, and by the way, here's what I'm meeting with, and here's their LinkedIn. Give me everything I need and how to bring this conversation to make sense for them. What do they need from me today? How can I be the person they need to be? See their future in me. And so now it starts spitting out, here are the questions I'd ask. Here's even the order in which I'd ask these questions. Are you a MedPick shop? Maybe. Well, here are your M1s and M2s that you need to get. Here are the examples you should bring. And now I'm organized. And so I can go back and say, here's all the things I'm going to need for my call. I prepare for 10 or 15 minutes. I'm ready to rock. And do the same thing on your territory. Hey, here are my 800 accounts. How do I get to my $1.5 million number this year based on here's how we historically perform as an organization? And the organization is doing this really well. The ones that are willing to give their sellers the data of their historicals, right? And now sellers can't do that. That's what RevOps is for, right? And the more that you bring into that on that kind of project building piece, now, as you know way better than me, that model is going to get a hell of a lot smarter instantly because it's going to understand what I'm trying to do. And so if you do that on account by account or a call by call, it gets amazing. Because now after a couple, call it 10 or 15 of these inputs across calls, I've got an assistant. And now I don't need an EA. I've got one right here. And I think that's where sellers who want to hit their number, who are behind, especially we're halfway through the year for most companies, the ones who are behind are the ones who are disorganized on what they're trying to do. And this is a way to get you very organized and prepare for each interaction that you have so that you understand the outcomes you're trying to get and how to get them.
That it's very similar to what Hayden was sharing in his Confessions episode, where it's ultimately it's almost about like how do you use ChatGPT to be this kind of coach, sales coach that you have access to at any given point in time, and that you potentially feel less judgment from than an actual person.
Yeah, I mean, there are teams out there that need significant coaching, right? AI is not going to help you, and that's probably most teams today. But if you understand how to run each of the most critical conversations you have for your sellers, both on the pre-sales, post-sales, net new, retaining revenue, and you could teach this thing for you on how I, as a seller or leader, make $1, keep $1, and grow $1. Well, now I can multiply my efforts. I can have it write 50 LinkedIn posts that are directly attached to that discovery call I had 2 days ago. Wonderful. Now all the people that are in that buying group that has the same issues, I can talk directly to them because I'm taking data from the call I just had with somebody and now turning that into content. It becomes your holistic flywheel for your operations. And if you can manage your time effectively, your workday goes down from all the admin stuff to being almost nothing. And now you can spend it on pure play, trying to impact the customers and prospects that you're trying to get to. And I think that's where, if you can get organized, if you can understand what this needs to, what the outputs need to be, what good looks like, as we kind of, sabotagingly say, this is where the gold is. Those who are leveraging the GPTs without knowing what a good outcome looks like from the prompts that they put in, those are the ones who are continue having deliverability issues, all those fun things that come with it.
But okay, well, I guess the takeaway is sign up for ChatGPT with the promo code Charles M.
Look, OpenAI, Sam Altman, where are you, buddy?
Exactly,
Let's go. Elon, are you there?
Love it. All right, and last question that we typically have is like, what's a tool that you use on an ongoing basis that you feel not enough people know about and that you kind of swear by?
Oh yeah, so I'm a big golfer, both in terms of girth and I play. But no, it's one of the things I love to do because it teaches you a whole bunch of things. But one of the tools I use is called Rapsodo. It's called ML. I think it's called actually MLM. I think it's a Rapsodo MLM. So that's interesting. But essentially what it does, it is my Gong, it is my Chorus, it is my GPT for my golf swing. I set it up behind me. It shows me swinging. It tells me what I'm doing right, tells me what I'm doing wrong, and gives me a path to improve based on my game, not somebody else's, not trying to replicate a pro, but it's taking, hey, here's how you swing. Now let's make this a little bit better. And so I use this 2 or 3 times a week. It's not that it's like $600, but it's taken me from a 8 handicap to almost a scratch golfer, mainly because now I understand, because just like in sales, right? Sales is a lot of little things done right. Same thing with golf, same thing with cooking, same thing with anything else we put on my handball, right? For example. But if we understand what those little things we need to do to get right are and what that looks like in practice, and we have something telling us on how to practice that and what's going to make us better, and we can see those results, that's what this tool does. In fact, that's where I wish I had a sponsor code for. Maybe they'll see this. We can tag them.
We'll send it to them.
But it's the same thing we're looking for as salespeople, as leaders, of founders of companies, chief product. I mean, this is what we're trying to look for is how do we do the thing? What is working? Why is it working? And how do we distill and democratize this across the varying populations that we have in the workforce today? And that's what tools like this do for my golf game. And man, if they came out with more stuff like this for sales and whatever it might be, holy smokes, we'd be in trouble. Everyone would be hitting quota.
I feel like there's an interesting analogy between playing golf and sales, because there is this thing of how like one missed shot, like first off, like your hole is done, right? It's like just
Sure.
And it's also like how as a rep you have to like go on to the next call, like, okay, you're teeing off again, forget about what just happened, forget about the double boogie, let's move on. Like, and if you're not able to do that, like you can feel like the people who are really good, they manage to just like switch it back on, forget about what happened, and move back to the now. And I think this is like it's a critical skill in selling, and it's also a critical skill in golf if you don't want to break your clubs every time you go out there.
That may or may not have happened a few times, but the reality is we have to understand what makes us great and the opportunities that we have to get better. And if you want to get better, there are tools out there like Rapsodo that can help you do that. You're looking for it in sales, you can do that with GPT. You can get smarter with different platforms that you have, but you have to want to be curious, right? And those who have the curiosity, those are the ones who are winning today. And more teams that understand that being curious is not something that you lose as a child. It's a choice you make to not be curious. Same thing is to be curious. I think the ones who are going to win in this market, the ones who are going to be great, whether it's golf or whether it's selling, are the ones who continue to be curious about the ways that they can get better.
Love it. Strong words to end off on. I love it. Always be curious, like both be curious about your prospect, be curious about how to improve, be curious on like other things you don't know about. I love it. That's, I think, a great way to think about it.
Be curious about life, baby. I mean, we only get one, and for most of ours, it's never going to be as long as we want it to be. So might as well ask a question and see where it takes you.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Charles, thanks a ton for confessing. This was a super fun episode. If people want to hang out with you, if they want to reach out, like what's the best way? Like what's the golf course you go play to?
Yeah, come on. Actually, that's a whole. In the fall, we got a golf series coming out. If you want to come and learn sales while you golf, we're going to do that in the fall. No, Charles at Launcher Review, launcherreview.io, and on LinkedIn all the time. Let's talk about sales. Let's talk about enablement. Let's talk about making humans better while we get swamped with AI, and let's work well together.
Awesome. Love it. Well, thanks a ton, Charles. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
Anytime, brother. Thank you, Francis.